MoistCr1TiKaL was pissed this past weekend on a very common issue in esports. He was actually very upset with the U.S. Immigration Office and a particular agent over there because he found it difficult to get his own players' visas to come to America, something that's pretty common in esports, and a lot of prominent esports owners and organizations responded when we talked about this on Twitter. Before we get into that, though, an esport out there that Moist is actually involved in is Valorant, and our partner iBuyPower is actually partnered with VCT Americas to provide them their PCs. So if any of you guys out there want to compete on the same PCs that the professional players are, that link will be down below. But here is MoistCr1TiKaL, aka Charlie, a co-owner of Moist Esports, getting very pissed at the U.S. Immigration Office.
Is this, you wanted us to prove that our placements were real, and we had a high-ranking EA, who, of course, they own Apex, represents that side, talk on our behalf to confirm that the placements are real. But you don't believe that that official, whom you even cite their position in this statement, actually represents them? Is actually part of the official governing body of the esport? How can you not believe them? You even cite their position in your statement, a position that constitutes the esports side. What do you mean? And then you say that the placements don't necessarily mean international reputation? What the fuck does then? How could any team possibly get into the country through this game if even the highest placements don't constitute international reputation to satisfy your criterion? It doesn't make any fucking sense. The agent here is well known in the esports scene because we've talked to numerous other orgs, and all of them have had to deal with this person, and all of them have horror stories about them. So much so that the majority of them have found ways to circumvent ever having to deal with them and going through other people. That is how bad at their job this person is.
And he goes on to describe how they even have an EA representative, someone high ranking at EA, who, by the way, runs the game Apex, who, of course, that Moist also operates a roster in. And yes, Moist Esports, I would say, is certainly going in the right direction compared to a lot of orgs out there. They are a growing esports organization, expanding now into a handful or a few esports, and with notable figures like Charlie as well as Ludwig being co-owners, they are certainly notable. And they've also had some pretty notable rosters. For me, Apex stands out, as well as Rocket League, Valorant. Maybe one day we'll get to that level, but I know them from their former Rocket League roster, and they've been doing great things in esports. So if someone of MoistCr1TiKaL's status, one of the bigger YouTubers out there, also attached to Ludwig, and yes, they are a notable esports organization with several notable rosters, if they're having difficulties, obviously other esports teams have issues with this, and it seems to come down to maybe particularly one agent or a subjective review by these people. And if they don't got respect for esports and they don't believe you, what else are you supposed to do?
What we could do was really speculate and resubmit, which we did. And now we've received a response from the resubmission forms, and after going through everything with lawyers and making sure it is as buttoned up as possible with all of the best in the industry, I am happy to say we are still fucking struggling because the agent is a geriatric fossil that is absolutely just out for some kind of vendetta. I think they might just hate the word moist. That's probably a very real possibility. But they have asked us to submit even more evidence and even more clarification on things, which ordinarily I would have no problem with. But we've already done this once. We did this song and dance last time, only to get rejected many weeks after doing that. This isn't a fast process. If it was fast, I wouldn't care. Be like, oh, okay, you need more papers, more documents, more clarification. Fine, we can provide all of that tomorrow, and hopefully hear from you in the next day or two. That's not how it works, because after we do submit all of those, further appeals for evidence, it takes weeks, multiple weeks, for them to respond, and they barely fucking look at what you submit, I feel.
And so definitely it's got to be frustrating because we already know that it's not profitable to be in esports. Can you imagine trying to field an Aussie core roster? You want to bring them to America, you get denied, so you got to move them to Canada instead. Obviously, I'm sure Charlie wants to make content with these guys. He would love to visit them a bit more often, and it's probably difficult to have to try and do things through Canada instead of hoping to have them in America. And there were also several other people out there that got involved. I'm going to read you a series of screenshots, thanks to all of these guys who provided a bit more context. But we have people from Global Esports over in India, OG Esports, one of the bigger and more longer lasting European organizations, especially known in Dota 2. We have Complexity responding, Space Station responding. And yes, this is a common thing in esports where teams have struggled with, especially in America. As Cloud9 said, first time, I'm sure they love importing some expensive players. If you know, you know. We have Kyle Batista from Complexity. Our immigration attorneys have expressed that the USCIS is increasingly denying petitions for players in games that aren't the absolute peak of viewership. Apex and Halo were two that they cited have become increasingly difficult to get visas for. And this was kind of news for me. I believe Druck, a Halo pro, talked about this earlier. I think it was actually later last year. And they continued. Unit, SSG unit from Space Station. We just had a Halo visa approved with absolutely no issues. I have a feeling it's not so much about the game, but more a specific immigration office that is looking after some petitions, but might be ignorant to esports. Kyle responds, internationally recognized is a subjective measurement, but one of the ways we've been successful for the last 10 years is by demonstrating viewership, because viewership for these games tends to be on the lower end of the esports spectrum. They're at risk for denial. Then we have Rushindra, or Rush is what I refer to him. He's a great guy. He says visa issues and esports. And then Mike from OG Esports. We were rejected for visas across a whole team in Overwatch League because the agent Google searched the wrong team name and found a defunct business. The real visa lottery is who you get in charge of the case, not your achievements. So it's like all of this just seems to be a completely subjective process, and avoid the replies and quote tweets. A lot of people, it reached like a different level of Twitter where people were like, esports are not important. Guys, it's a job. It's a profession, okay? What do you expect these players to do? Stay in Australia for the rest of their lives? Like, some people actually have to relocate to America to have the best chance to succeed in these organizations, whether it be to make content or be in the leagues that are local or to compete. Internationally, a lot of events are also in America. Like, what do you expect them to do? Just stay seated their entire lives? So avoiding that side of things, it's got to be very frustrating for some particular esports not to be recognized as much as others, and for this process to be completely subjective. I guess we'll have to wait and see what Charlie can do, but it's got to be frustrating. So till next time, hope you guys all enjoy. Stay hydrated. We're here for a great week. I'll see you back here sometime soon.